Alright, let me take a look at this. See, that's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. Stream is live. Alright, let's get this started. Hello! Shadowcat, back! Yes, I'm not late. I'm here. Things are working, I think. It's been a bit of a morning, but that's okay. I think I got everything working. So, we're back here. We're back for Pokemon. We did a lot of good work last time. Went on a lot of tangents last time. Actually, not a lot of tangents, like one big tangent. But that's okay. It was a good one. We needed it. So, today, we're getting back to moves. We still have a few things that we have to work on. We've got the template set up for all of our moves. We know roughly how we're going to be working them. But there's still a lot of kind of finicky add-ons that we need to do. We need to figure out things like ranges. We need to work on status effects and what they do, secondary effects for moves. There's a lot of little things we got to put together for the moves before we can move on from them. So that's what we're going to do. But before we get into that, I have people that are in the chat, so we'll take a look at that first. I see that JP is in the chat. Hello, JP. Good to see you. JP says, "Are we there yet?" That is funny on multiple levels. Because like there's an event that I go to online every week, and every event has a theme to it. The theme tonight is road trip. Are we there yet? Well, no, we're not there yet. But I'm sure that we will get there. Anyway, Blizzstar is also here. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you. Alden is also here, and not late this week. Hello, Alden. Good to see you as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into Pokemon. But of course, before we do this, the plugs. If you like this and you want to see more of it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon, that way you get notified. I do try to stick to a schedule, so you don't need the bell icon, but go ahead and hit the bell icon anyway. You know, just in case. If you like, or if you know somebody else who's also into either tabletop gaming or Pokemon, you want to share this with them, then go ahead. It's not illegal to share links yet, so just throw it at somebody and, I don't know, I can't make them watch it, but if I find a way to make them watch it, I'll do that. Otherwise though, if you want to leave a like on the video, go ahead and do that now. You can. It won't hurt you. You can also leave comments down below, but if you're going to do that, might I suggest you just join the Discord server. I have one. And especially if you want to play with us, because we have lots of games to play, if you want to play with us, you got to join the Discord. Join the Discord, go to the Behind the Screen channel, and from there, let me know what game you want to play, what your availability is, and as soon as I've got enough players, we'll get that started. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into this. We're going to need, of course, our browser. There it is. And I'll need my spreadsheets. And there they are. Alright, so, quick little review from last time. So last time we sat down, we worked on how exactly we're going to be doing the mini sheets for the moves. Now I say mini sheets because when we look at the Pokemon. Let's see, where is the window? There it is. I'm going to jump over to, I need a Pokemon. Any Pokemon, I don't care who the Pokemon is. Those are stat modifiers. This is all damage calculations. Oh, here we go. So I've got Sprigatito's page pulled up here, and obviously, as you can see, you're going to learn a lot of moves as you level up. I mean, by the time your Sprigatito, or basically whatever your starter Pokemon is, hits level 36, you've got a collection of moves. You're going to need to keep track of all these moves because they're going to be available for you to use. And so we do not want them to be huge. With the sheets that we've got set up here, I mean, that's that block right there, that's the entire thing. And so having a spreadsheet with your various attacks on it, super simple. And you just have to keep note of what 4 moves you're going to be using during that day, and you're good. I see that Jeffrey's in the chat. Hello, Jeffrey. Good to see you here. Alright, so we've got the moves done. We know what we're going to be doing. The mini sheets here, they're good. So one of the things that we need to do today is we need to work on things like range, because range is going to be difficult. The problem with that is that I'm going to have to try and make them universal, but I'm not sure if every one of them being universal is really the best way to go. But at the same time, there's also nothing to really define whether something is short range, long range, etc. So universal is kind of what we have to do. So what are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and take a look at what Pathfinder would do for this. Now, I've already got weapons pulled up here because we were looking at weapons last time. Now, for ranged weapons, fortunately we have whole categories for those. Two-handed weapons, ranged weapons. Blowgun has a range of 20 feet. Okay, that's not great. Darts have a range of 20 feet. A javelin has a range of 30 feet. Slings have a range of 50 feet. And then we get into crossbows, and those have ranges of 80 feet or 120 feet, depending on whether it's light or heavy. Now, one of the things that I should point out here, and this is not something that most people realize, and not something that most GMs are really spend a lot of time on. But when it says range, these are range increments. So I don't know if I have the rules right here necessarily. I have to come back here for weapons. Maybe I have to go down to the bottom of the sheet. I might have to go down to the bottom sheet. Yep, here we go. And Sky is in the chat. Hello, Sky. Good to see you too. Alright, so melee and ranged weapons. Reach weapons, they can reach, obviously, double weapons. You can fight with both of them. Thrown weapons, projectile weapons. Here we go. Most of them require 2 hands. You don't get a strength bonus. Okay, that's just talking about wielding it. But I want to show... Here we go. Range. Any attack at more than this distance is penalized for range. Beyond this range, the attack takes a cumulative -2 penalty for each full range increment or fraction thereof. For example, a dagger with a range of 10 feet thrown at a target that is 25 feet away would incur a -4 penalty. A thrown weapon does have a maximum range of 5 increments. A projectile weapon has a maximum range of 10 increments. So, when we go back up here to look at this, when it says that a crossbow has a range of 120 feet, that does not mean that when you fire the crossbow, it's going to go 120 feet and then all of a sudden, the crossbow bolt just drops dead in midair. No. It's going to keep going. If you miss with a heavy crossbow, that crossbow is going to travel one of 2 distances. Roughly 1,200 feet, or until it hits something. Did anybody else here play Mass Effect 2? Actually, I shouldn't say did anybody else here play Mass Effect 2, because I didn't play Mass Effect 2. But there is a famous scene. There's a famous scene in Mass Effect 2 when you're walking through the Citadel. And I know because I've watched the scene because it is that good. And it is a... I was going to say drill instructor, but I don't think he's a drill instructor. I just think he's their XO, who is chastising a group of gunners because they decided to fire the gun without checking their firing solution. And one of the things that he points out in that time is that you are in space. This is a railgun. It is firing a metal slug at a percentage of the speed of light. And because it is space, it is going to travel forever. It will travel forever until it hits something. And he rounds out this discussion very nicely by saying, when you pull the trigger on this gun, you are ruining somebody's day somewhere, sometime. Because the range increment for the railgun might be, 1,000 kilometers, but if you miss, it's going to keep going. The same is true for these. Now, what are the odds of you actually hitting something with a crossbow at 1,200 feet? Not good. Really not good. It is a -20 on your attack roll at maximum range. That being said, critical successes do happen. And if you roll a critical success, yes, you are going to shoot your crossbow and you are going to hit somebody through the window of their cottage while they're eating breakfast. And they're never even going to see the person who pulled the trigger on that. So why do I go over this so extensively? Well, if we have to talk about ranges for our moves, how far are we going to make that range? And if it is going to be a ranged attack, do we consider it more like a thrown attack with a maximum range of 5 increments? Do we consider it more of a projectile attack? I do not know. And even then, how do we determine what is ranged and what isn't ranged? So it's going to be difficult. I mean, we have some that are going to be really, really obvious. Things like rock throw. Rock throw is a move. Let's see. I'm going to go search for throw. Flamethrower came up. Flamethrower is very obviously going to be a ranged move, but what's the range on Flamethrower? And what's the maximum range on Flamethrower? A lot of these are going to have to be, a lot of these will have to be ruled on the spot because, for example, flamethrowers, or rather flame breath attacks, do not benefit from extended ranges. If we were to look at a creature that actually does have a breath attack, which is really simple because that is literally all dragons. Every dragon has a breath attack. And since I'm talking fire, let's just go ahead and pick a red one. Here we go. Adult red dragon. I want, here we go, attacks. Special attacks, breath weapon. It is a 50-foot cone. Okay, 50 foot. That means that if I come over here to this, and I go ahead and kick up or zoom out a little bit here, I'm going to want a token. Come on, load faster. Alright, I'm tired of waiting. Yes, I am that impatient. Let's see. Faster casters, spell effects. And I'm going to want... Here we go. Fire cone. So here's our fire cone. And it's going to have a range of 50. It's a 50-foot cone. So every square is 5. Now, unfortunately, the squares of my Pokemon Arena do not line up perfectly. Let's see. That's 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and where's the handle? There it is. 50. There we go. So there is a 50-foot cone. But breath attacks don't get a range increment. So what you see is what you get. Anything that is inside of there is making a reflex save versus being incinerated, and anybody outside of it is completely unharmed. In fact, if they have marshmallows, they may be even better than unharmed. They may have toasty treats. So some of these will have to be ruled on the spot. And I don't want to actually look at Flamethrower, the move. There's Rock Throw. So the range on Rock Throw is going to be a bit difficult because that would technically qualify as a thrown weapon. So if we come all the way up to the top here and we look at some of the things that can be thrown, that's ammunition. Where's a dagger? Just a simple dagger. Here we go. So the range increment on a dagger is just 10 feet. I really thought it would say thrown over here, but it doesn't. But a brass knife has a range of 10 feet. Dagger has a range of 10 feet. If we were going to follow suit, then Rock Throw should also maybe have a range of 10 feet. I don't know. Even then, if Rock Throw is, and it really is, ostensibly made to take down flying Pokemon, it kind of needs to have a range of more than 10 feet. Which is why I say that we need to have something that's going to be a little bit more universal. And universal means that some moves are going to be better, some moves are going to be worse. Now, what I could do is I could base this all on size. Size would be the optimal way to go about this. We already have the I gotta think about this. I gotta think. The thinky part of the brain is working. We already have a system in place for sizes. Because when we're talking about the sizes, we look at the height or weight, whichever is greater. So when we look at a Pokemon, like I've got Sprigatito here. Sprigatito is, well, the size for Sprigatito is just adorable. Sprigatito is 1 foot tall or a whole 9 pounds. Okay? Sprigatito is literally the size of a house cat. It's be pretty much tiny. If we were to take the size of a Pokemon and, let's say, do a multiplier. What if we borrow something from Starfinder? With Starfinder, when it comes to starships, particularly when we're talking about like the cost of things, they use a system where they use the size of a starship and a multiplier. So, for example, starships, I'm going to look at armor here, just because it's a really good example. So, the way armor works is if you wanted to slap armor on your starship, you'd pick your armor, you'd pick whatever bonus that you wanted, and how much does it cost you? It's 1, or however much, times the size category of your ship. And the size category ships are listed up here. 1 is tiny, 2 is small, 3 is medium, large is 4. There you go. So it's that easy. And, oh, PC Unicorn's in. Hello, PC Unicorn. Good to see you there. PC Unicorn says, thinky part of the brain is working. That's what the burning smell is. Yes, yes it is. However, if you hit me with the fire extinguisher, I'm putting you out back with Iron Man's robots. Anyway, we have a system already built into Starfinder where we have a numbered system for sizes. The question then becomes, can we adapt this to our needs here? So I'm going to go to Space and Reach and see how far down do we have to go before we start counting. And I may regret this one. So Combat, Space Reach. Here we go. The absolute smallest size for The absolute small size for a creature in Dungeons and Dragons is fine. Or not Dungeons and Dragons, but Pathfinder. And fine is defined as anything that is 6 inches or less. So the first question that I have to ask myself is, are there any Pokemon that are 6 inches long or less? And I think the answer to that is no. However, if you have a different answer for me, let me know. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask ChatGPT about this one because I honestly do not know. What is the smallest Pokemon? Let's see. According to ChatGPT, the smallest Pokemon depends on whether you mean by height or weight. By height, Flabébé, Joltik, Sinistea, Comfey, and Cutiefly are all at about 4 inches tall. By weight, Ghastly, Haunter, Cosmog, and Kartana are all less than a quarter of a pound. So we're gonna double check. We're gonna cross check. We're gonna fact check ChatGPT. So Flabébé. I don't even know what a Flabébé is, but we're gonna find out. As soon as I can find the Pokedex. I want just a list of Pokemon. Ordering systems, entries, evaluation, displaying. Where was that list? Now I don't remember. Core series of games, list of Pokemon. Wait, hold on, this might have been it. The list has changed from generations. This is not it. Okay, I guess I'm just have to look it up. Flabébé. That is not what I expected. I expected something on fire. But okay, taking a look. It is a fairy type. It is absolutely 4 inches. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So maybe ChatGPT is right about this one. Joltik? What's a Joltik? Joltik. Oh! It's like a tiny little spider. And it is a whole 4 inches tall. So it is a tiny little spider. It is a 4-inch tall spider that weighs a pound. Pound and a quarter. That spider is dense. Okay, Sinistea? I actually know this one. Okay, this one looks like a teacup. Sinistea, also 4 inches tall. And weighs half a pound. It's a heavy teacup. Okay, so fine is absolutely a thing. Which means that we have to start counting here. So I'm going to just come over here a little bit, and I'm going to start numbering things. Actually, I've already got this this numbers thing started here, so why not? Fine. And diminutive. Tiny. Small, medium, large, huge, gargantuan, colossal. There we go. All right, so we've got numbers that we can assign to these sizes. Now, Sprigatito is all of like a foot. And so, with Sprigatito being a foot tall, maybe a little bit more, and being about 10 pounds, since we're going by whatever is greater, 1 foot to 2 feet is tiny. However, 10 pounds, it was 10 pounds, right? Give or take. Sprigatito. Actually, it's 9 pounds. 9 pounds. So 1 foot and 9 pounds is still going to put Sprigatito into the small category. Okay, so if Sprigatito is in the small category, we look over here to what small is. Small is a ×4 modifier. All right, now let's think about this. We have our fixed number. Well, actually, no, we have our floating number. We need our fixed number now. And that fixed number is going to be either a ×5 or a ×10. And so ×5 is going to make it a little bit on the shorter side, ×10 will be on the longer side. The fact is that there's not too many Pokemon that are going to get into these upper ranges anyway. And even then, if they did, like a large Pokemon would have to be somebody who is anywhere from 500 to 4,000 pounds or anywhere from 8 to 16 feet. There are more than a few Pokemon that actually do fit that bill. But even large is a ×6. So if we did something like a ×5, that would give a large Pokemon a range of 30 feet. ×10 would be 60 feet. And I am inclined to go with the ×10. Just because 60 feet seems a bit more reasonable. And again, if these are range increments, and if we're going to go ahead and say that, since these are not technically projectiles, we're just going to use the throne rules ×5. Well, 60 × 5 would be 300 feet. So, let's say that you did have, I don't know, a Charizard who knows Flamethrower, and a Flamethrower being able to reach 300 feet. I mean, that's kind of a lot. Now, granted, at 300 feet, you'd also be taking a penalty on that. It'd be a, let's see, we're talking about 4 range increments, so that's going to be a -8 on the attack roll. Probably not going to hit anything, but still possible. I think this will work out well. So what if we do that? What if we come over here? Nope, not to the XP chart. My microphone's in the way. I can't see my tabs. What if, for range, we put in here, it's going to be the size category ×10 feet. All right, so once we do that, let's go ahead and pick out one that we can actually, do this to. So list of moves. Rock Throw, sure, why not? Sounds great. Rock Throw. Now, part of this is going to be based on, part of this will be based on who's actually doing it. So, I need a rock Pokemon. Somebody give me a rock Pokemon that knows rocks, or either knows or can learn Rock Throw. Somebody in the chat. Who knows this one? Somebody knows this one. Because all I can think of right now is Geodude. Not even like Geodude. Seriously, I'm so tired of Geodudes. They were the bane of my existence in almost every single cave that I had to go into. Because every single one of them knows Sturdy. And I hate Sturdy. Alden says Golem. Okay. Alright, Golem. There's Golem. Let's see. It evolves from Graveler when traded. It's the final form of Geodude. Oh, no. I still can't get away from Geodude. Anyway, here we go. So we got Golem. And right here, we're going to make a new sheet. So this is going to be Rock Throw. Type, is going to be rock, obviously. Category, I believe it's a physical move. Yep, it's physical. Physical. Now, range. So the range, again, is going to be 10 times whatever the size category is. So this is where we have to go back to Golem. How big is Golem? Golem is a whole 4 feet tall. So would be underwater in the shallow end of a lot of swimming pools. However, 661 pounds. So we're going to go by the bigger number. 661 pounds is going to make him large. Very nice. So he's large. That's a 6. Times 10 means that the range on this is going to be 60 feet. The damage, of course, we will get from the move itself. It has a power of 50, so it's going to be 1d50. Does it have a status effect? It has no secondary effect. So that's a no. No status chance, obviously. And it has a limited number of uses. Just like every move does, it's limited to 15. And there we go. We have our first ranged attack. So that's very good. Why don't we do that again? Somebody pick a move. Pick a move, pick a Pokemon. And we'll go ahead and try this one more time. We'll do it with somebody else. Maybe something that also has a secondary effect or a status effect attached to it. Now, the real problem with this is going to be actually going through and finding out what has range and what doesn't. And let's see. Alden says Rockthrow had an accuracy of 65% in Gen 1. I mean, I guess. You're throwing a rock. Unless you're a baseball pitcher. I don't think most people can throw a rock that well. Let's see. Razor Leaf. Almost guaranteed to be a it's almost guaranteed to be a ranged attack. Solar Beam, definitely ranged attack. Let's see. Alden says Gardevoir and Psychic. Blizzard Star says Pidgeot and Fly. Is Fly a ranged attack, though? Because aren't they actually flying at their opponent? I don't know. I'll look at that one first. Pidgeot? There we go. Hello, bird. It's the first bird. Let's see. So Pidgeot is going to have Fly down here somewhere. Let's see. Hurricane Tackle, Sand Attack, Gust, Quick Attack, blah, 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 blah. Don't see it. We have to learn it. There it is. Fly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start from the top. Let's see. On the turn that Fly is selected, the user will fly straight up and become semi-invulnerable. Where only attacks it can be avoided are Bite and Swift. On the following turn, it will inflict damage. Just as it does damage, though, it doesn't necessarily say, you know, how it inflicts damage. It's just, I can only assume that it's crashing down into their target. It's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me. It's a dive bomb. So, I guess we're not really going to do that one. Alden, however, said Gardevoir and Psychic, and that's definitely going to be range attack. So, Gardevoir. We'll need that. And we'll need Psychic. Actually, I'm doing this the wrong way. List of moves. And this page we'll send to Gardevoir. So first off, Gardevoir, how big are you? A whole 5 foot tall, and 106 pounds. So 5 foot tall is going to put it square into the medium category, and 100 pounds is also squarely in the medium category. So there you go. Gardevoir's medium size. And Psychic. That's a Gen 1 move, I do believe. And there it is. Alright, so we're going to look at this this Psychic as done by Gardevoir. So, Psychic. Type is, Psychic. The category is not Psychic, it's actually Special. But Special is kind of Psychic. Range. So, since Gardevoir is a medium size, medium times 10, it's going to be 50 feet. But that's a range increment, which means that technically Gardevoir could reach up to 250 feet. And that's going to be really important for something else, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Damage, of course, is going to be 1d90. Psychic is not to be underestimated. And does it have a secondary effect? It does. So Psychic does damage and has a chance of lowering the target's special by 1 stage. That's in Gen 1. In Gen 2, it now has a 10% chance of lowering the target's special defense by 1 stage. Gen 3 and onwards, it no longer has an additional chance to fail when used by an in-game opponent. It can also be used as the first move of the Pokemon Contest combination, causing confusion, Future Sight, Kinesis, and Teleport to score double the normal appeal if used the next turn. I don't get it. Whatever, though. So, it looks like it has a 10% chance of lowering special defense. Which means status effect is going to be special defense, and the status chance is going to be 10%. And of course, it has a limited number of moves. It's limited to 10. So there we go. I think that's going to work out really well. So if you have your Gardevoir, Special, Psychic, all of that stuff. But something that actually just made, this just made me think about. Psychic has the range, or has a range to it. We're going to go back to our types. And Alden says, Pokemon Contest was a minigame that was in some of the older games. They have their own rule sets and moves, all had different effects. Blizzstar says the beauty contest. Wait a minute, I think I remember that. I think I remember that from Shining Pearl. Yeah, I didn't do that a whole lot. I was more focused on like trying to get through the game and survive. But I remember that. Okay, fair enough. Okay. So, we just said that that the ranges for these moves are approximately 5 or 10 times whatever the size category of your Pokemon is. When we did the types and we looked at Psychic, we gave Psychic types the ability to bond their senses at will. However, we didn't have a range for this. Now I think we do. So if the range for any of these moves is up to 5 times the maximum, then that means that for our Gardevoir here, our Gardevoir could have a range increment for bonding senses of 250 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and modify this. The max range is going to be just max range. So it's going to be Range is going to be size category times 10 feet times 5. There we go. So again, when we're talking about what do these Pokemon do for you outside of just straight up combat, when we're talking about what do they offer, what makes them special, if you have a Psychic type, you can literally be in one room, and you can have your Psychic type be in a completely different room. At this point, they could even be in a completely different building. I mean, think about this. 250 feet for your Gardevoir. So, I mean, I don't know what house you're living in right now, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that you're not necessarily 250 feet away from your neighbor if you live in any kind of suburban area. Which means that your Gardevoir could literally be next door, or your Gardevoir could be home while you're next door, and you could have your mind in two different places. It offers up some very interesting scenarios if you decide that you want to specialize in Psychic types. So that could be very good. That could be really good. Alden says, also figured I need to ask, can moves that hit allies indiscriminately also hit the trainer? Examples given Earthquake and Explosion. The answer to that is a resounding yes. And I'm glad that you bring that up. Because one of the things that we needed to really bring home is just how dangerous Pokemon are. These Pokemon, I cannot emphasize enough. Every single time you start a Pokemon game, okay? And granted, I haven't played that many of them. But I know enough about them to know that every single mainline Pokemon game starts the same way. You start at home, and then you usually either meet a professor of some kind or something happens, and you leave the house. And when you leave the house in every single game, except for, I don't know, maybe Scarlet and Violet, because they literally just come to your house and give you your Pokemon, and just drop the pretense. But in every other one, you leave the house and the first thing that they warn you in every single game is do not leave town and do not walk into the tall grass. There are Pokemon out there and they are dangerous. And then, of course, you usually get this adorable little Pokemon right at the beginning of the game, and it completely undercuts, like, the whole danger thing. I mean, my experience is very limited, but one of the first things that you encounter in Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond is a Bidoof. It's a Bidoof. Do you know what a Bidoof is? I know that some of you know what a Bidoof is. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Beware the Bidoof. I need a moment to let the terror sink in. Is everybody done being terrified? So, now that you're over the abject horror of the Bidoof, let's make it terrifying, okay? So, if you wanted or if you came across a Bidoof, what kind of damage does this thing do? It has the ability to do damage, sure. If we come back here to our Pokemon conversion chart, their melee attack is done by size, or by size and by stage. Jeffrey says it looks like a beaver. That's because it basically is a beaver. I mean, they say that it's the plump mouse Pokemon. I never saw a mouse. It looks like a beaver. So it's a stage 1 Pokemon, which means it's going to do like 1d4 damage. And given that it's, you know, going to be very low level, it's just going to do 1d4 damage. There's nothing special about that. So 1d4 damage, you, even as like a child, are going to have like 1d6 hit points. And since we're, you know, playing fantasy, it's going to have, or you're going to get 6 hit points to begin with, which means that Bidoof could bite you. Yeah. Or headbutt you, or whatever it is that it actually does, and it's going to do up to 4 hit points, and that's dangerous, yes. That could kill you. However, what does Bidoof get? Oh, at level 1 it gets Tackle. And Tackle does 1d40 damage. 1d40 damage? Well, hold on a second. I'm gonna jump over here to the Archive of Deaths. I want to look at Starfinder for a moment. Because Pokemon does ostensibly take place in a modern world. So we're going to look at terrestrial vehicles. And I'm looking for a car. Here we go, the Urban Cruiser. The Urban Cruiser is just a large land vehicle, 10 feet wide, 10 feet long, 4 feet high. Let's see, how many passengers? 3 passengers, so it's got just like, it's got a bench seat in it, okay? Does anybody else remember bench seats? I remember bench seats, okay? It's got a bench seat in it. Driver, and a passenger, and somebody's riding bitch. So here we go. Here's a car. Now, it has an EAC of 14, KAC of 15. The kinetic armor class is what we're really looking at. It has 24 hit points with a hardness of 5. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when our Bidoof decides to tackle the car. That's 1d40 for tackle, minus 5 for hardness. $22 hit points worth of damage. It had 24. Okay? So this Bidoof that just decided that it didn't like your car one day and decided to tackle your car did about the same damage as an Alaskan moose. You're going to drive away, but you're not going to drive away happy, and probably not for very long. So, Pokemon are going to be dangerous. Very, very dangerous. So let me bring this back to, let me bring this back to what Alden was asking about earthquake and explosion. Now, the thing about earthquake and explosion is those are going to be kinda different, because those are area effects. So I'm glad you bring that up. I'm really glad you brought that up now. Because Psychic, if we look at this range, the range here says that it can hit an opponent, and an ally, but it can't hit somebody over there. Actually, that's really interesting. I just thought about that. I need to look at this. Look at this real quick. I might need to make a modification. So, mechanics and ranges. In a single battle, most moves such as Tackle and Growl affect only one opponent. Several moves, primarily status moves like Defense Curl, affect the user. A few moves affect all Pokemon in battle, including Haze and Pear Song. Some moves do not affect Pokemon on the field directly, but instead affect the field itself. In a double battle, the other Pokemon formats featuring additional Pokemon, there can be one or more allies or one or more opponents. As such, the player will be asked which Pokemon to target after selecting a move. Most moves can target either a single opponent or ally, and that player can choose which of them to target. Some moves do not target a single Pokemon, but instead multiple Pokemon at the same time. These moves can target opponent and allies such as Earthquake, which, you know, you just mentioned that. Oh, Blizzstar is out of here. Well, Blizz, it was good seeing you here. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Okay, let's see. Earthquake or only opponents only will like Swift. A few moves such as Thrash do not allow player to choose because it's random. In a triple battle, most moves can only hit Pokemon that are adjacent. All 5 other Pokemon that are adjacent to the user is in the middle. Long-range moves can affect faraway Pokemon on the opposite. Okay, and that's a link. What's a long-range move? Can I get a list? Let's see. The chart's down below in orange. Your party... list of moves by range. Aha! Normal. Self-ally. 1 ally. Varies. Normal. Adjacent. Your party, all sides, adjacent, other side. I'm just looking for whatever would be long range. See, Alden says Triple Battle was a gimmick fight in Gen 5. It was never used again. That is... I'll take that for what it is, but it may still have use to us here. It may still have use. So, 1 random... So, okay, Toxic Spikes, Stealth Rock, so these are just, you know, things that are scattering on the ground. We don't need to worry about that. This is not as useful. Yeah, this is not as useful as I thought it would be. Okay, never mind. We don't need to worry about that. Anyway, so getting into things like Earthquake. So Psychic, we know, is a single target and it hits everything. Or it hits one person. What I think we need to do is we need to separate moves into different categories. One of them is going to be single target, one of them will be multiple target. So for example, Psychic, it's going to have a range, that's fine. Psychic is going to be single target every time. And so we will just use that with a normal range. Earthquake, however, is going to hit everybody on the field. Where is it? There it is, Earthquake. And I know for a fact that Earthquake hits everybody on the field. Or I guess not everybody on the field, it just hits everybody around. Well, no, it says it does hit... No, that's just the range. I'm almost certain it hits everybody. Earthquake inflicts damage, has no secondary effects. It can hit Pokemon during the semi-invulnerable phase of Dig. If it does, double its power. Yeah, here we go. Gens 3 and 4. Earthquake will hit all adjacent Pokemon, including allies. And let's see. Gen 5 and onwards, if it hits somebody during Dig, instead of doubling the power, damage is technically double instead now, resulting in virtually the same effect. If grassy terrain is in effect, Earthquake only deals half damage. I did not know that. Learned a thing today. Okay, anyway though. Earthquake does hit all adjacent moves because it hits allies. So what we'll do with this is instead of it being single target, we can turn it into a radius. So I'm going to... I'm going to go ahead and pick up a golem here. I know that I have golems. Let's see. Winged Fiends? No, it seems bad. I mean, I'll look. Yeah, Flying Golem? No, I don't want that. Aquatic creatures, coral golems. No, I don't want a coral golem. Why can't I get just a regular golem? Well, not the greatest golems, but... Ah, here we go. You look like a rock golem. Let's throw you on there. There we go. We got our rock golem. Okay, so... Alden says, moves that target adjacent foes. This should list all the moves that target multiple enemies. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. But, like, over here, we've got our flamethrower from, like, a dragon. However, since flamethrower, as far as I know, is single target, we're actually going to flatten this down into a line, and if Charizard wants to flamethrower somebody, that's going to be Charizard's flamethrower. Alright? And that's fine. That's really fine. Do I have a dragon? I might have a dragon somewhere. Four-legged fiends, that's a dragon turtle. That's a blue dragon and a green dragon. That's a dragon fly. It's a dragon kin. That's not quite it. Copper dragon. Ah, here we go. Red dragon. Here you go. There's a Charizard. Alright, and there's Charizard using flamethrower. Fantastic. Looks terrifying. So now we're going to get into, like, Earthquake. And for Earthquake, we're going to need to say, okay, first off, I mean, how big is it, or what's the range in this going to be? I'm just going to go ahead and assume that our Golem is the one using Earthquake. That way, it's pretty simple, because we've already done the math for it. Our Golem we use for Rock Throw, and he's going to do 60 feet. So instead of, you know, putting a circle out, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give him an aura. It's going to be a 60-foot radius. And I'm going to go ahead and make this red because this is the danger zone. Boom. If I put him, like, right in the middle of the arena, that is the danger zone. Earthquake is going to hit everything in that area. Now, what does that mean for us? What does this mean in general? Well, it means that I'm going to go ahead and look at Earthquake. Earthquake is a really, really nasty move. It has a power of 100. This means that while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and have our Golem roll 1d100. 96! See, this is why you do not want me rolling dice. My dice hate you. I know that you think your dice hate you. And they do. Don't get it wrong. Your dice hate you too. But my dice explicitly hate you. And I didn't tell them to do that. I don't know where it came from. I just know that they do. So, Golem uses Earthquake. Earthquake does 96 damage. 96 damage is going to be lethal for basically every single human in the area. Even more so, I want to show something. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this tab. Under normal circumstances, if you were to try and do damage to a building, if you're trying to damage materials, like a door or a wall or something like that, the first thing that happens is every single time you try to do damage to it, your damage gets cut by 1/10, I think it is. And, I mean, I can look that up real quick. Game mastering... where is it? Combat? No. Environment? No, that's not it. Actually, no. I know how to get there. Combat. Full round actions, no. I want special actions. Here we go, Sundering. Here we go. So this is the page for damaging objects. It's actually under equipment. So if you wanted to damage an object, like say breaking down a door. Well, here we go. Smashing an object. So objects have an armor class, that's fine. Hardness. Each object has a hardness, a number that is how it resists energy, or how it resists damage. So if you wanted to break down a door, like a simple door, simple wooden door, it's basically plywood on a hinge. It only has 10 hit points, and it's a hardness of 5. So when you roll damage, you take 5 right off the top. That means that if you're doing a weapon that does anything less than 5, congratulations, you don't even need to waste your time rolling. I don't care how high you roll, you're not hurting the door. And even then, if you have an axe or something, it's going to take you a while to hack your way through it. Which, is great for me because it means that I can use that moment to really build tension. They're hacking through the door. Bang! The axe hits the door, and several splinters begin to poke out from your side. It's fantastic. Let's see. Energy attacks. Most energy attacks deal half damage to most objects. Divide the damage before applying the hardness. Ranged attacks. Objects take half damage from ranged attacks. Divide the damage by 2 before applying the object's hardness. And so, yeah. Only a melee weapon is going to do its normal damage, and even then, it's pretty awful. But I wanted to get into an actual spell. Because Earthquake isn't just a Pokemon move. Earthquake is a spell. But it might not be in the arcane list. Tremor Blast? Nope, I don't think it's here. This is not what I want. It's not an arcane spell, it will be a nature spell. Druid spell list. Earthquake! See? Told you. Alright, when you cast Earthquake, an intense but highly localized tremor rips through the ground. The powerful shockwave created by the spell knocks creatures down, collapses structures, opens cracks in the ground, and more. The effect lasts for 1 round, during which time creatures on the ground cannot move or attack. A spellcaster on the ground must make a concentration check or lose any spell they try to cast. The earthquake affects all terrain, vegetation, structures, and creatures in the area. And the area is an 80-foot radius, so bigger than the golem. The specific effect of the spell depends on the nature of the terrain where it's cast. If you're in a cavern, cave, or tunnel, the roof collapses, dealing 1d8 points of damage, but I don't really care about that. Cliffs will cause roughly a landslide. Open ground will actually cause fissures to open in the earth and swallow people. But what I want to get to is structures. Any structure standing on open ground takes 100 points of damage, enough to collapse a typical wooden structure or masonry building, but not any structure built of stone or reinforced masonry. Hardness does not reduce this damage, nor is it halved as damage dealt by objects normally is. Any creature caught inside a collapsing structure will take 8d6 points of bludgeoning damage. They can do a reflex save for half, and they become pinned beneath the rubble. Now I bring this up because it says that it deals 100 damage. Now, tracking the damage for all of these things is going to be really, really hard. What I can say, though, is that if we're going to use this example, when a Pokemon uses Earthquake and it deals or does 1d100 damage to everything in the area, We can also use that as a percentage and just say, hey, it's doing 96 damage to everything in the area, including all structures. Do those structures then collapse? At which point we can then roll another D100, and if we roll under a 96, it collapses. It collapses. And so anybody who is inside the building is also going to be pinned underneath, and it's going to be bad for everybody. So what does this mean for us? Number one, it means that any Pokemon that has Earthquake is going to be ridiculously dangerous now. Earthquake was already really dangerous in most Pokemon games as it was. I mean, Earthquake is one of those games where you were either ready for it or you got severely punished for it. There was almost no middle ground. Either you were a type that resisted ground moves, and so you didn't really care, or you just got absolutely wrecked. It also means that if a Pokemon has Earthquake and uses this around you, you're in trouble. You're in danger. And Alden says there is an absurdly long list of Pokemon that can learn Earthquake by TM. Yes, there is, and that should really, really give you pause. Because it means that anybody who has a Pokemon who knows Earthquake is carrying a weapon of mass destruction. Now, how is this a bad thing and how is this a good thing? It means that yes, there are lots of people out there that might have Pokemon that are incredibly, ridiculously dangerous. At the same time, though, it basically means that this is the Wild West. Does everybody have dangerous Pokemon? Yes. Yes, they do. Does that mean that people are going to be dying every day from dangerous Pokemon? No. No, it doesn't. Because everybody has dangerous Pokemon. Do you really want to be the one to pull out your Charizard and say, hey, flamethrower that guy that I don't like, when there's 5 other people that can pull out their Pokemon and say, okay, now we're going to do the same thing to you. So yes, it is going to be ridiculously dangerous. And to that point, what if it wasn't Golem? What if it wasn't Earthquake? What if it was Explosion? Why don't we investigate that? Because Explosion, as I recall, is one of the strongest moves in the game. To the point where I'm not even going to look for it, I'm just going to sort by power. So, once we get past the infinite power moves, Explosion is literally top of the list. At 250. Now, who gets Explosion? A lot of Pokemon do, actually. But the one that I can think of would be, what's it called? Electrode? I think it's called Electrode. Yeah! It evolves from Voltorb, which is where it just basically turns upside down. Okay, so Electrode is going to get Explosion. First things first, let's go ahead and look at, like, how big is it? So, it is 3'11", and it weighs about 150 pounds. Wait, Alden says Golem gets it too? Are you serious? Hold on. Hold on. Golem, do you get Explosion? Do you really get Explosion? Scrolling. Tackle, defense curl, bulldoze, smackdown, self-destruct, and Explosion. Yes, it does. Oh my god. This is... I hate Geodudes. I really do. I hate Geodudes and everything attached to them. Okay, never mind. Remember that radius? Same radius. The only difference is that now it's an explosion. So instead of it being a 1d100, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, okay, it's going to explode. It's going to do 1d250 damage to everything around it. How do you want to hit the button? $217 damage. Now, to be fair, unlike Earthquake, at least structures will be resistant to this. If it's a structure, depending on what the structure is made out of, we have to have the damage first, so rounding down to 16, 216 divided by 2 is going to be 108. 108 damage to a structure. It's probably still going to be lethal to the structure. It will absolutely be lethal to literally everything else around it. With one exception. And that exception is, of course, other Pokemon. Because when we come back here to our Pokemon, let's not forget that when we maxed out our values, Bulbasaur, as our example 3-stage Pokemon, has a maximum HP of 1008. Spearow, being a 2-stage Pokemon, had a maximum HP of 1080. And technically speaking, if it was a stage 1 Pokemon, they have a D10 starting out. 100 levels of that, they just have 1000. So, 217 damage to another Pokemon? Not exactly a big threat. I mean, it is, don't get me wrong. It's significant. But it's more of a danger to everyone else. It's a danger to the environment and all of us puny little humans, or whatever races we decide to play, than it is other Pokemon. And you're right, Alden, at the cost of its own life. Jeffrey Huntsman says, who gets explosion? Cuts to Bidoof. You know, I would not be surprised. We can find out, though. Where's Bidoof's movesets? Here it is. Let's see. Can you learn it? Probably not, actually, but Bidoof does evolve. It turns into a Bibarel, which looks even goofier. And see, now you can't even pretend. See, now it's a beaver Pokemon. How it turns from a mouse into a beaver, I don't know. But we went from the mouse Pokemon, the plump mouse, to the beaver Pokemon. I don't want to hear anybody talk about Digimon ever again. Oh look, it turned into like some kind of cyborg dinosaur thing. You have Pokemon changing species when they evolve. Miss me with that. Let's see. What does it learn? It learns Hyper Beam. It's like the most powerful normal type move, with the exception of Explosion, which actually I don't think it can learn. So you're just going to have to deal with the silver metal of Hyper Beam. But even Hyper Beam, I mean, we're talking like a Bibarel here, and it gets Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam is going to have a range of, let's go ahead and see how big it is. Bibarel is a whole 3 foot and weighs about 69 pounds. 3 foot puts it in the small category. 65 pounds actually is going to bump it up to medium size. I did read that right, yes? Or 69 pounds, almost 70. So yeah, that's going to make it solidly a medium size. So yeah, Medium is going to be a ×5 multiplier. It's right here, which means that the barrel will have hyper beam with a range of 50 feet. Range increment, rather, of 50 feet. Now, there are some other things that we would have to go through, like, is hyper beam a point attack, a touch attack, or is it a line attack? And that's actually something worth investigating here. And I want to do that right now. List of moves. How many beams are there? We have an ice beam. We have a psi beam. We have a bubble beam, an aurora beam, a hyper beam, a solar beam, a signal beam. Never heard of that one. A charge beam, a simple beam, a moongeist beam, an eterna beam, steel beam, a meteor beam, a twin beam, a fickle beam, and then we're back to ice beam. So here's the thing. There are various types of spells. The one that we're most familiar with is either the explosion, which is an area of effect spell, or a point spell, which is usually a ranged touch attack of some kind. However, there's many different shapes and sizes of things, and if we come over here to the space reach, I can show them. We have cones, we have radiuses, and we have lines. Now, the thing about lines is that a line spell is going to affect everything in its area. So, if you point a line, everything in that area gets hit. Circumstantially, everything in the line is also going to get a save because they just do. That's how these things work. Every single beam should be considered a line. And we can do that. So, I'm going to start making some notes here. I'm going to say that beams are the line shape. Okay? I just scroll up in the chat a little bit. Alden said, moves that target all adjacent Pokemon. So, all... not ass. All adjacent is going to be radius. There we go. What else do we need? If it's not all adjacent, what if there's just, like, multiple opponents? Flamethrower. Does Flamethrower do that? Flamethrower targets both opponents. But what if we have something that could target, like, just multiple opponents but not your allies? Something a little bit more selective. That could be our cone attack. And that will help us to kind of narrow these things down a little bit. Alden says all adjacent foes. Something like Swift. Okay, let me look up Swift. There's Surf. Where is Swift? Aha! Here we go. And right there, under the range, it shows both opponents. Gen 1, Western versions of the handheld game, it inflicts damage and bypasses accuracy checks. Let's see, Gen 2 onwards, it now bypasses accuracy checks to always hit. It's an auto hit. Gen 3, or that's not Gen 3, that's Gen 8. Oh wait, no, here we go, Gen 2. Swift hits opposing adjacent Pokemon in battles. With featuring multiple Pokemon. Okay, so there we go. opposing adjacent. This can be a cone. I can't type today. And so, of course, it's going to be the same calculation for range. And I wonder how many other moves fall into that category. This is not a link. So I can't just click on this and have it go. Oh, but what if I do this? We're going to come back to range here. Since I know one of the moves, let's just find where Swift is. Affects many others. So the examples I give here are Growl, Blizzard, and Swift. Now, how Blizzard doesn't affect you as well, I don't know. Here we go. Affecting many others. Razor Wind, Tail Whip, Leer, Growl, Acid, Blizzard, Razor Leaf, String Shot, Poison Gas, Bubble. Here we go. This is perfect. Now, I'm not going to copy this list, but the fact that we have it, this is good. So any of these moves inside here will be cone effects. Anything that is inside the cone will get a, anything inside this will get a reflex saving throw versus whatever you're throwing at them. Unless it's a status move, in which case it'd be more like a will save. However, if I just go like up one category, adjacent plus all others, there's our earthquake and explosion. But also surf, self-destruct, magnitude, discharge, bulldoze, mind blown, corrosive gas. So when you're looking at all those moves that are like dangerous to you, there's your list. Any Pokemon that is carrying one of these moves, you probably want to stay out of their way. And so this is why, and I want to bring this up. When we're looking at the, at Pokemon battles, I need a couple of tokens here. I need just a couple of people. So I just need some NPCs here. Free assets. Here we go. Townsfolk. That'll work. So I'm going to take this guy, this barkeeper here, and I'm going to put him over here. So there's going to be one of our Pokemon trainers. And I'm going to grab... Oh, wait. There's a child? Ah, yes. Get out of here. Actually, no, you can stay. I take it back. Child. Why? Because Pokemon trainers are children. And we're going to put you over here. There is a reason why Pokemon trainers stay over here. Let's see. Alden says, as a side note, moves that hit 2 allies will have their power reduced to 75%. Not sure if we want to implement that, just wanted to mention it. Oh, wait, you said 2 enemies. Now, is that incidental to if it hits 2 enemies, as opposed to if it only hits 1? Or is it just because if it's an AoE, it reduces the damage to 75%? Whether it's incidental or not matters. But that is good to know. If it's an AoE and it just gets reduced to 75% anyway, I can use that. Okay, Alden says it's incidental if it hits 2 enemies. That's actually less useful. Like, if we were just going to reduce it overall, I think it would be more fair. And I can understand why that actually works in the game. Alden says that if it ends up hitting just one enemy, it hits for full damage, and I get that. However, I need to be a bit more consistent in my games. And so, keeping it either at full power for everybody or half power for everybody, that matters. But I just wanted to get here on the map and point out that I'm actually going to move like that guy back a little bit. He's still in like the trainer area, but getting further back away from the action because this is not the kind of fight that humans want to be in. Now, why does this matter? I mean, why am I actually putting in all of this work to do this if we're just going to end up having you standing back here like this and having your Pokemon duke it out like this anyway? What's the point? The point is that just because this is how it is going to work like in a battle against a Titan like this Golem, that's not going to be every Pokemon fight, and there will absolutely be room for you to get involved. For example, he's got a radius of 60 feet, but what if... And I'm going to come back here to equipment. Here's the thing. Crossbows are simple weapons. Everybody gets access to simple weapons. So if we're playing this in a fantasy area, everybody has access to simple weapons. I mean, they're called simple for a reason. When we look at simple weapons, they're things like a club. A club is just a heavy stick. It is the first weapon that we picked up as humanity. And a mace, or a morning star, is just a refined club. A quarterstaff is just a long stick. A spear is a pointy long stick. Again, very simple weapons that anybody can use. A dagger is just a knife. Now, I have heard things about knives, specifically that a knife is simple, using it ain't. But the point is that it's also one of the earliest tools that we had. And crossbows. Now, is a crossbow a simple weapon? Well, not if you're building it. But the thing about crossbows, and the reason why crossbows revolutionized the world, is because in order to train up an archer, particularly if we want to talk about specialized archers, we're talking about Mongolian horse archers, English longbowmen, any of your specialized archers, that wasn't something that you could practice. That was a lifetime, an actual lifetime of dedicated training and practice. This was not the kind of thing that you could pick up after you were already grown up and just say, hey, I want to learn how to be a longbowman. No. Longbowmen trained from the time they were children to the point where their actual skeletons changed. Yeah. Crossbows changed the game because literally anybody could pick one up and use it. It gave the power of an English longbowman and put it in the hands of the peasantry. Which means that in a Pokemon battle, if you have so much as a light crossbow with an 80-foot range, you can be taking pot shots at that enemy Pokemon. For that matter, I mean, you can almost take a shot at the other person. Because, as Alden pointed out, there's nothing stopping an evil Team Grunt from throwing a brick at the trainer. Well, if the evil Team Grunt has a crossbow, they can shoot clear across this arena at a -2 penalty. Everybody is on the table. But more to the point, you can actually start taking pot shots at Pokemon. Now, this is a rock-type Pokemon, so how much damage are you going to do? Probably not much. But the point is that you can help. So, you are in danger. So is the Pokemon. So that's why we're doing that. Now, in terms of, like with these, every single one of these is going to have some kind of reflex save. And so what is that going to be? Well, the reflex save is generally going to be probably tied to their level. So what we want is for really high level Pokemon to have DCs that are equally high. And so let's look at how we can divide 100. 100 can divide by 2, which means that a level 100 Pokemon would have a DC 50 reflex save to avoid getting hit by something like, say, Solar Beam. That's a bit high. So what's the next number that we can divide 100 by? 3? No, we could divide by 4. If we divided it by 4, that means that a level 100 Pokemon would have a DC 25. A DC 25 reflex save. That's better. We could up it a little bit more, though. What if we made it, say, their level divided by 4, and then a plus 5? We could do that. We could do that. That means that if you have a, like, level 1 Pokemon, it's a DC 5 if they use a ranged attack. Which, I mean, none of them do at that level anyway. So, I don't know, we'll go with like a level 8. Okay, level 8 divided by 4 is a plus 2. So it would be a reflex save of a DC 7. I mean, you can still fail that, but it's a lot easier. So that's not bad. That's not bad. I like that. So reflex for half. And it's going to be a reflex. Well, I'm going to say DC 5 plus level divided by 4. There we go. DC 5 plus the level divided by 4. So that means that your lowest levels will cap out at will bottom out at a DC 5, which is fine. That's really easy to pass unless you're unlucky. And the high side will cap out at a DC 30, which is suitably high, really, really tough to dodge. But again, it's one of those things that by the time you reach that level, you kind of deserve it. Your attacks should be really, really hard to dodge. The same thing can also be true for any effects that target a trainer. So we already have things like hypnosis. Where is that? It's going to be a psych move. It's going to be yeah, here we go. Hypnosis. So it's a psychic type move introduced in Gen 1. This is a status move. It's an offensive status move. So Hypnosis puts the target to sleep. In Gen 1, it can affect a target behind a substitute. It has an accuracy of 60%. Let's see, Gen 2. When an in-game opponent outside the battle tower uses Hypnosis, the move has a 25% chance to fail in addition to its normal miss chance. In Gen 3, it has no effect on Pokemon with the Insomnia or Vital Spirit. It can be used as a first move of Pokemon in a contest combination. Okay, don't really care. Gen 4 and onward, its accuracy was changed to 70%, which we don't need to worry about because we have dice that we can roll. In Platinum, it was changed back to 60%. In Link battles between Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, its accuracy is set to 60%. Hypnosis can also be used as part of a contest. Okay. Let's see. Gen 8. It has an accuracy of 70% and inflicts drowsiness. Okay. So it looks like it's not really a matter of... It's just a matter of whether it hits or not. And for our purposes, we already kind of have that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of pound. And we're going to sketch this out. So hypnosis. The type is going to be psychic. Category is going to be status. It's a status move, right? Right, it is. Okay, the range. It's going to depend on who it is, so I'm going to ignore the range for now. Damage is, of course, going to be none. Now, the status effect is going to be sleep. Now, sleep is something that we don't actually really need to sketch out. If we come over here to Game Mastering and Conditions, we already have sleep. A character who is asleep is resting and helpless, and a sleep character can be woken by an ally as a standard action, or from being wounded. While asleep, a character takes a -10 penalty on perception checks and cannot attempt perception checks that rely on vision. But they can otherwise attempt a reactive perception check to notice changes in their environment that do not rely on sight. For example, a sleeping character can attempt a perception check to hear a loud noise, smell a terrible odor, or sense a creature burrowing in the earth beneath them. If a sleeping character succeeds, they are automatically awaken. So we've already got rules for that, and I know that Pokemon also has its own rules, but these are more comprehensive. And both of them do share in common that if you're injured, if you're hit by a physical attack, you wake up. Pokemon is a little bit weird in that if you get hit with a special attack, sometimes you don't wake up. It's hard to gauge sometimes. Anyway, though, status chance. Now, here's where we need to get into this this whole accuracy thing. So, the dice rolling in the Pokemon games comes into that accuracy. If you hit somebody with hypnosis, they're asleep. If you miss them, it misses. Although, weirdly, sometimes it just says it has no effect. Or it didn't affect them, or whatever. I don't recall it ever really saying that hypnosis just missed. So I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that. Alden says, attacking a sleeping Pokemon does not affect its chance to wake up. Interesting, I thought it did. I always played under the assumption that it did. Oh, except for the move Dream Eater specifically, and the move Wake Up Slap. Okay, fair enough. I just automatically assumed that physical attacks would wake them up, and so I always avoided using them. Pity, if I'd have known that earlier, that probably would have changed a few things. Sleep is so mean anyway. Regardless, status chance. We can do this one of two ways. So according to this, hypnosis has an accuracy of 60%. So we can use that for our status chance. And in fact, we did that for pretty much everything else. For Psychic, it has a 10% chance of inflicting that status. We can do the same thing here. We'll take the accuracy and just use that as our status chance. And so they roll a D100. If they roll 60 or less, they're asleep. Of course, it has 20 moves. Okay, so we're going to go with this. We're going to say status chance is going to equal accuracy. Okay, fine. I will format everything. Where's the format button? There it is. Format as text. So it's going to equal accuracy percentage. All right, so that changed a whole bunch of things for me. This is going to be 60%. And there we go. So that takes care of our ranges. It takes care of our status chances. We even have shapes now, and I wasn't even planning on those. So that works. That's got a 10% chance to burn. That's a 100% chance right there. And that's a 10% chance. Alden says, so would attacks that have like a 90% or 95% accuracy chance have perfect accuracy? And the answer to that is no. So when you're talking about anything that has a 90% or 95% accuracy having perfect accuracy, first off, the accuracy of the actual attack doesn't matter, because we're rolling dice. So every single time that your Pokemon goes to attack somebody, and I have a couple that are already pre-made here, so we'll grab one of those. We have our Aegislash over here. Now, our Aegislash has a melee attack of a 1d12 plus 9, and because it's a fire type... Wait, because it's a fire... No, it's not a fire type. Why do you do fire damage? I don't know why I made that fire damage, because you're not a fire type. Okay, so it does 1d12 plus 9. So, if we were going to come over here, and you got this Aegislash... Alright. Do I have a sword? I should probably have a sword. Faster caster. Yeah, here we go. I have a spectral sword here. And you, I'm going to turn your aura off. Just because it's a little overwhelming at the moment. But here we go. And you're too hard to see, so I'm going to give you an aura. There we go. So here's our Aegislash. And our Aegislash wants to slap the golem. Okay? Here's how this is going to work. For a normal attack, we're going to look at this Aegislash, which is level 89. We're going to look at its melee attack. Now, this is the attack bonus. So, it's going to be a 1d20 plus 26. Okay? And I'm not used to labeling these things, but... because I have an audience, let me go ahead and start labeling these things. Next is going to be the melee damage, and that's going to be right here. It's going to be the 1d12 plus 9. Alright, there we go. And then we simply roll the dice. And just like that, for the melee attack, we rolled a 36, and for the melee damage, we rolled an 18. Which means that the Aegislash is going to just slap him. Okay? This is just the Aegislash grabbing itself or whatever and smacking the golem. So where do we get into that with powers then? Okay, for that I need to actually look up the Aegislash. I need to grab one of its powers. So I'm going to go ahead and grab something that's in line for it. I'm just going to say Iron Head, okay? Iron Head's an attack move. Alright, so first things first is we're still going to use, because Iron Head is probably a melee attack, we're going to use its melee attack bonus. So we're going to keep the melee attack bonus. However, for the melee damage, we will go ahead and use the move. So this is going to be, what did I say, Iron Head? Something like that? And then, yeah, for Iron Head, that is going to be a 1d80. So GR1d80. And then, of course, we rolled the dice. We got a 42 on our attack roll and a 75 on our damage roll. And so Aegislash uses Iron Head, deals 75 damage. Alden says, okay, I just meant to ask if damaging moves with less than 100% accuracy will get a penalty on rolls or anything. Basically, no. Yeah, the answer to that is no. We're going to be using the, we're going to be using just the regular dice rolls. So where does the accuracy come in then? What if it wasn't an Aegislash? What if it actually was a Gardevoir? And I don't have a token for a Gardevoir, so I'm not even going to try. Instead, what Gardevoir is going to do is... see, base attack bonus is going to be what? Base attack bonus is equal to the level divided by 5, so it's a maximum of a plus 20. So I'm going to say Gardevoir's range attack. This is going to be 1d20 plus, because I'm just giving it a random level, 1d20. Okay, we can abstract this. Next is going to be Hypnosis. And for Hypnosis, we already know, because we just did this, that the status effect chance is going to be 60%. So this is going to be 1d100, and we're looking for less than 60. And then we simply roll the move. And so Gardevoir rolled a critical failure on the attack roll. That's a 1. Which means that regardless of the fact that when we look at the Hypnosis, we got a 48 and that would have been a success, the fact of the matter is that ignoring the success, Gardevoir critically failed the attack roll and so never even made contact with the Hypnosis move. Now, that's fine, so it failed. Moves miss in Pokemon all the time. The other Pokemon gets to take their move, and assuming that Gardevoir is still standing, we try again. I'm going to roll the dice again. We rolled a 17 and a 40. So assuming that a 17 actually hits, because we're just looking at their touch attack, or their touch AC. Assuming that it hits, they're asleep. And that's where we can use the accuracy to our gain. If we were going to use something different like Fire Punch. So Fire Punch over here, it's a physical move, it's a melee move, the range is melee, so we're fine. I'm going to do the same thing again. Actually, I'm going to delete this. I'll just start over. I'm just going to say that this is going to be Charmeleon's Fire Punch. I think Charmeleon gets Fire Punch. This is going to be a 1d20 plus... I mean, Charmeleon becomes Charmeleon at level 16, so there's a minimum of that. I was going to say 1d10 plus 4, actually. Well, no. Yeah, 4 is fine. 4 is fine. Okay. Next is going to be Fire Punch. And that, because it is an actual move, is going to do 1d75. Which is great. But it also has a secondary effect, which is Burn. Now, Burn only has a 10% chance. So we are looking for a 1d100 less than 10. Can we hit it? Alright, and you can't see the top one, but Charmeleon's Fire Punch rolled a 26, which is good. That's probably a hit. It does 1d75 damage, which rolled an 18. Not great. And does it actually inflict a burn? We rolled a 50, which means no burn. And I can roll this again and see what happens. If we hit him again with it, we rolled 17 for the attack, 33 for the damage, and an 88 on the burn check, which means there's no burn, and so on and so forth. And we can do this for every single one. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this looks really complicated. One of the nice things about Roll20 is that you can actually program macros, which means, and I'm not going to do it right now, but you can actually program it so you have just a button that you can push. And so we can literally set it up so that your button or your Pokemon's moves are automated. So we'll just have a button where you'll see Fire Punch, and you'll just push that button, and it'll do it all for you. It's not terribly difficult. I promise I can walk anybody through it. But we can make it a lot easier. But that's how status effects are going to work. Now, as far as those secondary effects go, there's lots of status effects. And I didn't get into most of them. But we've got Burn, which is a status condition. I want to look up the status conditions. We've got Burn, Freeze, Paralysis, Poison, and Sleep. And then there's a few others that are different. And I'm not sure how many of these actually we need to worry about. I mean, maybe we need to worry about all of them. I'm not sure. Some of these I know. A lot of these I don't. And so I'm not sure. I know Burn, Freeze, Paralysis, Poison, and Sleep. Ability change, ability suppression, type change. These are not some that I'm familiar with. Bound, Curse, Seeded, Splinters. I'm not familiar with those either. Autonomize, Identify, Minimize, Tar Shot. Minimize is the only one there that I actually recognize. I guess technically it's a status effect. So maybe we need to look through some of these and actually go through them. Alden says most of these effects are tied to very specific moves. I believe that. I easily believe that. But like, for example, Burn. The Burn condition... let's see. The Burn inflicts 1/16 of its maximum HP every turn. And so... how we're going to do that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, because 1/16 is just, that's math that I don't really want to do. We have examples of other things that do burn damage. If I come over here to Starfinder, we have actually many weapons that do burn damage. And I hate coming to this page because sometimes it takes forever to load. See if I can get it to go. You gonna go? Yes? No? Maybe? I hate this webpage. I don't know why it always does this. How about small arms? Okay, looks like it's not going to load. I'm not surprised by that, actually. Anyway, the point is that if you have like a laser rifle... Oh, wait, no, here we go. Perfect. It actually did load up. And I look for burn. So here's a flame pistol. A flame pistol, it's a level 2 pistol, so pretty common. It does 1d4 fire damage. However, on a critical hit, it also inflicts a 1d4 burn. And if we look into the critical hit effects, it says burn, the target gains the burning condition. If we come over to burning conditions, blinded, broken, burning, you are now on fire. Thank you, Captain Obvious. As long as you have this condition at the start of each turn, before you take any actions or even attempt a reflex saving throw, you take the listed amount of fire damage, or 1d6 fire damage if no amount is listed. So for that pistol, it would be a 1d4 fire damage. I mean, you're just basically kind of padding out the fire on your arm. Still, I mean, you don't want to be on fire. So that's what we could be doing here. The question then is, like, how do we determine how much damage that it does? And I think that a really easy answer to this could be built in. So, for example, with Fire Punch, it does 1d75 damage. So, how much damage should it do? What if we were to simply divide the total damage by 10 and then rounded it down? If we did that, divided by 10 would be 7.5, rounded down would be 1d7. At which point, if they happen to be burned, they'll catch on fire, and they'll, take 1d7 damage every turn. And we can make that super easy. There's a lot of rules that we kind of need to go through on this one. Alden says other moves that boost evasion, like Double Team, don't have this effect. Minimize involves physically shrinking the Pokemon. Okay, so, I mean, that's fair. It causes moves like Heavy Slam to always be, or hit a minimized, or always hit a Pokemon, minimized Pokemon. Yeah, a lot of these are going to be really weird. I think what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll cover some of the most used ones. So, like, we'll do Burn. We'll get Burn written down. Freeze. I don't really see Freeze that often, but, I mean, we can cover Freeze. Freeze is just frozen. Frostbite just seems to be basically the ice version of burning. Paralysis is just that. It's paralysis. I don't think there's anything we really need to do for that. Poison? Poison is going to be complicated. For a couple of reasons. Number one, we need to figure out exactly what the DCs are going to be for that. And secondly, because we need to see if poison types are going to get any kind of bonus for it. So there's poison, then there's badly poisoned. A bad poison affects or inflicts damage every turn, with the amount of damage increasing each turn. I don't know if we'll do that. But the point is that, like, we'll absolutely do burn, freeze, paralysis, poison, and sleep. The rest of them, maybe we do them on a case-by-case basis. Again, not saying they don't need to get done, but this is where play testing might come in really handy. Where we're not going to sit here and do it. We're not going to front load it. We'll do it on a case-by-case basis as they come up. If you pick a Pokemon that has Minimize, we'll work out what Minimize does in that moment. And if we get to play with enough Pokemon, eventually we'll get to all of them. That's the fun part. There's absolutely a reason to play these. But okay, we're gonna take a break here. We didn't make as much progress as I wanted to, but the progress that we did make was good. I like what we did with ranges. I like what we did with shapes. We're getting into some of the status stuff. In fact, most of the status stuff is kind of already done. It's just we need to work on the effects, and some of the effects are already done for us. Like sleep is sleep. Paralysis is paralysis. We already have the conditions for those, and I'm just going to apply those directly to Pokemon. That's easy. Alden says that freeze is less common because it is a stronger version of sleep. Sleep always lasts 2 to 5 turns, while freeze can potentially last forever. The wake-up chance for sleep also ramps up with every subsequent turn, while freeze is a flat 20% chance. Fair enough. Alright? Fair enough. Alright, so, we'll take a break here. We come back. We will start with all of these status effects. We'll get the rules written down for burn. We already kind of established them. I just need to write them down. And then we'll get into the rest of them. And if we finish up with that, I don't know. We have so much more to do. We'll make it work. So, if you want to be here for that, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos are coming out. If you know somebody else who's also into either tabletop or Pokemon, then share this video with them. But if you just like me, like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. But if you're going to leave a comment down below, might I suggest, just come and join us on the Discord. Join us there, go to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know what games that you'd like to play. Because, come on, we got games to play. Let's go play them. Let me know what game you want to play, what your availability is. As soon as I've got enough people together for one game, we'll start. So, I hope to see you there. I hope to see you back here next week. And until then, take care.